Hi friends. I'm going to say good morning even though I'm filming in the evening. So that's why the light looks a little weird. But you're not going to be seeing this until Monday morning. So we're going to act like it is. Good morning, friends. Are you guys ready to sing with me? Good morning, Blue Jay friends, and how are you today? We come to meeting to sing and laugh and play. And when we're up, we're up. And when we're down, we're down. And when we're in the middle, we're not up or down. So roll your hands real slow and roll them really fast. Give your hands a clap, 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 and place them in your lap, lap, lap. Hi, Dave. All right, how about I'm a little teapot? I'm a little teapot, short and stout. Here is my handle, here is my spout. When I get all steamed up, hear me shout. Tip me over and pour me out. Say hi, Dave. Hello. All right, my friends. Why don't we just get into it today? So, I don't know if you remember, but last week we finished by talking about the different parts of a plant, specifically flowers. So, we had a big old drawing of the plant with 5 different words, 5 different vocabulary words about the parts of the plant. So those words were stem, leaves, roots, petals, and seeds, right? So I wanted to go over that with you again, kind of the same way we did the plant life cycle with that review. So we have a drawing that looks pretty similar to the one that I had last week, except this one doesn't have any color. And it's also missing the words. The words aren't written down on there, right? We've got some blank spaces. So I want to see if you guys can come up with the words and we could fill it in. I'm going to be sending this to moms and dads too, even though they could probably pretty easily draw it themselves. I'm going to send this to moms and dads too, so maybe you guys could practice at home. I know a lot of these words are pretty familiar to you. You guys know flowers pretty well, plants pretty well, but it's always useful. So, what is the part of the plant that anchors it to the ground and helps it get nutrients from the soil? What do you think? What part of the flower keeps it anchored to the ground and helps it absorb nutrients from the soil? That will be down here. Those are the roots of the plant. So we are going to put that word right there, roots. What is the part of the plant that attracts animals and insects to help it pollinate? Do you remember? That one's a little tricky. What part of the flower is really attractive and bright that would attract animals and insects to come help it pollinate? Right around here. That is the petals. Add that right there. Right there. So we've got roots and petals so far. What is next? What carries nutrients and water up the plant to the top? If it was moving up the plant, what part of it do you think that might be? It's like a giant straw, right? It's right here. right here. The stem. Here we go. The stem of the plant. So we've got 2 more spaces left. What are these? Right here. You see those a lot on the plants in our classroom, right? Tons of them. What are those called? I know you guys know this one. Those are leaves, right? And our last one is what helps a flower pollinate, right? It scatters its seeds. There we go. So we've got our diagram all filled in. And I want to see if you guys can do that at home too. I wanted to show you, I don't know how well we'll be able to see it because of the lighting. But these are our seeds. Oh, actually, it's not too bad. These are our seeds that we put in the container sometime last week. The only one that has sprouted so far is our cucumber seed. It's still going to be really hard to see though, and I'll try and get a picture of it in bright light tomorrow. But the part of the seed, the part that is poking out and part of the plant is white, just like the paper towels. So you can't really see it. It's sticking out like right there. It's starting to sprout. Now we haven't seen any movement yet from our pumpkin seed here. Our carrot seed has wiggled out of its space and is now sitting on the top, but that has also not sprouted yet, I don't think. No. Then we've got our sunflower seed, which also has not done anything yet. It's been less than a week, so I'm not surprised that they are not coming up yet. We'll see what happens. And these are our basil seeds that are sprouting. They're in the roots and stems stage. It's got some roots deep in that soil, anchoring it down. And it's getting stems that are going to get bigger, longer, thicker, and stronger. So we'll keep checking back with those, and I'll try and get a picture of our sprouted cucumber seed tomorrow in some really bright light. But I wanted to read with you guys a pretty familiar book. It's got lots of plants. It's called Muncha, Muncha, Muncha by Candace Fleming and G. Brian Karras. You guys can read along with me if you know the words. I know some of you do. Let's see, make sure that you guys can see. For years, Mr. McGreely dreamed of planting a garden. He dreamed of getting his hands dirty, of growing yummy vegetables, and of gobbling them all up. But he never once tried it until, "This spring," said Mr. McGreely, "this spring, by golly, I'm going to plant a garden." So he hoed and he sowed and he watched his garden grow. He took care of his plants, right? Lettuce, carrots, peas, tomatoes. "Yum, yum, yummy," said Mr. McGreely. "I'll soon fill my tummy with crisp, fresh veggies." But one night when the sun went down and the moon came up, 3 hungry bunnies appeared. Tippy, 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 pat, muncha, muncha, muncha. The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his gnawed sprouts, he was angry. So he built a small wire fence all around his vegetable garden. "There," he declared, "no bunny can get into my garden now." And the sun went down and the moon came up, and tippy, 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 pat, spring, hurdle, dash, 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 muncha, muncha, muncha. The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his nibbled leaves and gnawed sprouts, he was really angry. So he built a tall wooden wall behind the small wire fence all around his vegetable garden. He huffed. Those flop ears will never get over it. No bunny can get into my garden now. And the sun went down and the moon came up, and tippy 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 pat, dig, scrabble, scratch, 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 spring, hurdle, dash, 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 muncha, muncha, muncha. The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his chewed stems, his nibbled leaves, and gnawed sprouts, he was really, really angry. So he made a deep, wet trench outside the tall wooden wall behind the small wire fence, all around his vegetable garden. Ha! He snorted. Those pufftails can't get under it. They can't get over it. No bunny can get into my garden now. And the sun went down and the moon came up, and tippy 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 pat, dive, paddle, splash, 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 dig, scrabble, scratch, 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 spring, hurdle, dash, 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 muncha, muncha, muncha. The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his chomped blossoms, his chewed stems, his nibbled leaves, and gnawed sprouts, he was furious. So he hammered and blocked, sawed and stalked, drilled and filled and trapped and locked, and he built a huge, enormous thing before the deep, wet trench outside the tall wooden wall behind the small wire fence all around his vegetable garden. I've outsmarted those twitch whiskers for sure, he exclaimed. They can't get through it. They can't get under it, and they can't get over it. No bunny, no way, no how can get into my vegetable garden now. And the sun went down, and the moon came up, and tippy, 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 stop. 3 hungry bunnies looked and smelled and touched the huge, enormous thing before them, and tippy, 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 pat, the bunnies hopped away. The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his untouched vegetables, he was happy. I beat the bunnies, he whooped and did a jiggly-wiggly victory dance. Then he climbed over, jumped across, squeezed between, and crawled under until he reached his vegetable garden. Ah, sighed Mr. McGreely, at last. Smacking his lips, he picked and pulled up lettuce, carrots, peas, tomatoes, and with his basket overflowing, he reached inside for something yummy. Muncha, muncha, muncha. The bunnies were in the basket. All right, guys, I will have 2 more books for you in a little bit.